Azelyra. Welcome to Media Academy, nya. My name is Azelyra, and today we'll be talking about the PSO2 and Monster Hunter FZZ Collaboration Event, nya. Having the opportunity to come to the Ark ship was an amazing experience. I've never seen anything like it before. But there's one pesky elder dragon that followed me all the way to the Phantasy Star universe from the Monster Hunter universe, the Azelyra. If you Arks would come do my quests, I promise you'll be rewarded greatly for it, nya.
Whoa there now. What's a cat doing in my studio? I know I'm a little late for my Media Academy segment, but I didn't expect to see a cat in here.
Yeah? Are you a member of the Arks?
Well, yeah, I am one, I suppose.
That's perfect then, nya. Also, to correct you, nya, I'm a palico, not a cat.
That's a fancy name for what is literally a cat.
Cats don't talk, nya.
Right. So anyways, what can I do for you?
While traveling the universe, I went through a very beautiful coast, ventured through a volcano, and found myself lost in the forest, nya. But I happen to have dropped an important treasure there as well. If you happen to go to the forest, one of the natives might have picked it up. So please return it to me. I'll be waiting for you at the shop area. If you can return me my treasure, I'll even consider being your partner.
Partner? Huh. I guess that's not a bad name to call you by.
Nya.
Anyways, isn't it a little dangerous to go exploring in the XH free fields right now? As from what I know, Arks has been reporting in that Azelyra can actually appear and attack you.
That shouldn't be a problem. With the combined power of your entire MPA, you will definitely be able to repel Azelyra, yeah? However, if you really plan to defeat Azelyra, you will have to chase him to the tower and defeat him there as a 4-man team. To access the tower, you will have to farm the XH free fields to get a trigger. Or I can give you one for completing my client orders, yeah?
But why would I want to go through all that trouble? Isn't just repelling Azelyra enough?
Nya. If you defeat Azelyra at the tower for me, I will provide you with one special voucher where you can trade in a plus 30 cap fully grinded weapon from the all-new Ceres series.
Well, that sounds very tempting. With the Ceres being a new 13-star weapon series, this ticket would definitely come in handy, especially if I'm a newer player. But I'm not. Even then, it's still useful.
To make it sound even more delicious, nya, I will also be opening a shop that you can trade in for various vanity items, music discs, and even more Ceres weapons if you want more of them. The weapons will be 100 stones each. As for the other colored stones, you can acquire them from carving Azelyra's tail or completing my other client orders, nya. A lot of my orders will reset daily, so be sure to come see me every day, nya.
I see. Well, that is something I would love to do. Although, don't you have to go home sometimes in the future?
Yeah, you know me too well. I do have to go home at some point in the future. December 5th to be exact. So that will be the last day that I'll be opening my shop at the Ark's ship's shop area. So if you ever need anything, please come to me before December 5th.
You bet. Also, please keep in mind that we don't know if Partner's shop is going to come back, so try to finish up everything before then. Now let's see, what can I do with the Ceres weapons?
Hey, I can upgrade those Ceres into a 14-star.
Wait, what? Wait, no. Where did you even come from in the first place? I don't remember you being here.
I come from everywhere. Whenever you need me, I'm right by your side.
Well, that's pretty good, because I need information on what you just talked about.
Yeah, well, you know those yellow stones you've been picking up? That you've been running around on Forest Extra Hard or Volcano Extra Hard?
We're gonna also have a Coast Extra Hard.
Yeah, but you know those stones you've been picking up? Well, if you pick up 600, you can grab any Ceres weapon you want from the exchange shop, and then if you plus 35 it, and get another 900 stones and go to Zig, you can upgrade them to a 14-star for you.
Well, that sounds oddly convenient because I think that's only 1,500 stones.
Indeed, it sounds like a lot, but they drop a lot of stones.
And also with the Arcs League and everything, it's been actually really nice, considering you can also use your rare drop rate boosters to actually boost the drop rates. It's pretty convenient overall. I think so. How long does it usually take? Or like, how much do you get per hour around?
I'd say around with an average MPA, you can get around maybe 100 to 200 per hour.
Really?
But that's not including if you get a PSE burst. If you get a PSE burst, you can easily break around like 300 or 400.
Although sometimes when we do it, sometimes we actually get up to 600s, depending on PSC burst, really.
That's true. So it doesn't take that long at all to get a 14 star. And they're really good 14 stars as well, so it's well worth grinding out for.
Oh, well, how does this 14 star work?
Well, it's interesting. There are two versions of potential, a low and high version. Now, how they both work is when you hit the enemy a certain amount of time, your damage rises. And at the max damage, you get a barrier. And that barrier not only gives you damage reduction, but also gives you innate Massive Hunter.
What if I told you Massive Hunter does have damage reduction in itself? So it is basically a Massive Hunter.
It is a Massive Hunter. The best part of all, the only restriction to the barrier is that you just have to keep hitting the enemy. If you get hit, the barrier stays.
So basically you're saying that this weapon is completely dependent on hit count.
Yes.
And so looking at this weapon as a whole, you might think that it's a more defensive weapon. But how about its offensive capabilities?
See, that's the thing. It sounds like a defensive weapon, but it actually is one of the strongest weapons we have so far. See, it starts off with a 10% damage by itself, same as Atra. But the difference is, when you get the barrier, you have an extra 7.5% damage. That already is like way better than Atra. And actually around as strong as Xian, but Xian required you to have the same element. This, you can just hit anything and you'll get that damage number.
So all you need to really worry about is your weapon's hit count.
Yep. And the best part about the 14-star version is it supports SSA slots 1, 2, and 3.
So meaning you can, well, just stack damage or do whatever you want to.
Yep.
Wow, so basically at the base core of this weapon, you have a 10% damage plus 7.5% damage when you have the barrier, and a S1, 2, and 3 slot, which you can add a lot of damage in as well.
And with the Massive Hunter, just keep whacking without getting knocked away.
Wow. Well, let's see. What exactly is the differences between these two potentials that you talked about, though? I know that at the core, they're basically the same, but what exactly are the differences?
Well, the potential you start off with when you turn into a 14-star is a low hit count version, where you get 15 hits to hit the 7.5% power, and your barrier is formed. You get a 10% damage reduction, and if you don't hit anything for 8 seconds, the barrier just disappears. The high hit count version is a lot higher. You need 50 hits to get the max power and barrier, but to make up for that, you get a 20% damage reduction, and the barrier stays up for 40 seconds unless you hit something, and then it just resets the clock.
Well, that's actually a really long time.
It is.
40 seconds is actually a really long time, where you have this period where you just need to hit one thing and your barrier retains itself. That's actually a really interesting thing to note, because sometimes on the 15 hit, you only have 8 seconds, which you might lose it when, for example, some enemies are doing like the flybys or something like that where you can't really hit them. You might lose the barrier.
Indeed.
So it's kind of this small argument where we really need to look at and see what kinds of weapons are good with which potential. Now, before we continue this video any further, I'd like to tell everybody that we are going to be actually covering every single weapon in the game, which is going to take quite a while. So if you're not really interested in hearing about the other weapons, I've kindly left the timestamps down below in the video's description, so you can click on that and see exactly which weapons you want to hear. So with that said, let's continue the video. So Gessie, why not start off, let's go through every single weapon. We'll start off with Hunter. Yes, every weapon.
Every weapon? Alright. Oh boy, that is a lot of weapons to go through. Well then, I guess we'll start off with Hunter then. I believe for the sword, the partisan, and the wire lance actually, I believe they should all be 15 hit count. Because Hunter doesn't have very fast hitting attacks. They have more hard hitting attacks. And plus, Hunter is already pretty much a tanking class on its own. So there's already they already has that high defense, high HP, and because you want the power route like as fast as you can. I believe 15 hit would be better because with Sword, Wirelands, and Partisan, most of your PAs it won't take too long, but it'll take like a pretty quick amount to get to 15 hits. And then with your charge PAs and stuff, I'd say, it's a pretty nice difference there. Plus, I'm pretty sure most hunters already take Massive Hunter, so they don't need it as much. And they also use guards. They also use guard for PP recovery and HP recovery and stuff, and ignition parry and stuff. So they're already set on terms of like guarding stuff, I'd say.
Right, but on the contrary of the slowly hitting Hunter, we also have Fighter, which is generally a higher hit count class. Especially that double saber.
Oh yeah, I think Fighter specifically needs the 50 hit. Of course, like I said, it takes longer to get to the max power, but first of all, as I said, double saber, the Kamitachi ring, the tornado, instantly 50 hits really fast. Twin daggers has orchestra that also brings the hit count up really fast. Knuckles, it's a bit slower, but if you use something like straight charge, you can easily get up to 50 hits. But why Fighter needs it is Limit Break. Limit Break is always like risking yourself for death no matter what. Like you have really low HP, so 20% damage reduction is absolutely needed for that.
And then if you have a higher health pool, for example, if you're using units such as the Izane units for defensive power, you can actually survive longer because you have that 20% damage reduction from the 50 hit potential of the Zara.
Indeed. And then the other good thing is for Double Saber. As we all know, Double Saber, besides Deadly Circle and Scissor Edge, all of Double Saber's hard-hitting PAs do not have any super armor on it. So having that Massive Hunter could like just save you so much trouble of just getting randomly whacked out of like a PA, like Grumbling Moon.
Especially Illusion Rave.
That PA lasts forever. Anything can just whack you out of it without you realizing it.
So yeah, it's probably... I think Double Saber truly is one of the biggest winners for Zara, actually.
Yeah. I think Double Saber will be staying on Zara for a long time.
And you know what's actually probably going to stay in Zara for a long time as well?
What's that?
The rifle.
Oh boy.
A lot of people may disagree with me on this, but I still think the rifle should be on the 50 hit potential.
Oh?
You see, a lot of people may think that rifle has this thingy where you gotta always stay still. You always only charge your Enitrack or satellite cannons, which are really slow hitting PAs to begin with. But here's the thing. If you use PAs such as the crafted homing emission, which basically instantly fires 5 shots, or if you actually kite around using parallel slider type 0 for a little bit, you can actually get that hit count up to 50 really fast. And by being at the 50 hit count, you can retain that Massive Hunter for freaking ever.
True. I don't think standing still for 8 seconds is a risk you want to take. The 40 seconds definitely sounds a lot better for that.
It's definitely a really strong potential for having to, sit around and use Enitrack or something like that. And also, with that, you can also make it a lot more reliable to be in the air and shoot. Because you will not get knocked down at all, which means using the jumping dodge ring and repositioning yourself will just make your life that much easier.
What about the launcher?
I think the launcher itself is a little bit of an interesting case where basically, you can basically just use the launcher and say cluster bullet something and you're going to hit a lot at once.
Ooh.
Which also comes into a really interesting thing where there's a very specific interaction between the Zara weapons here. So let's say in the example where I use the potential of the low hit count on the launcher, and then on my rifle, I use the potential of the high hit count. When you swap weapons, of course the shield and all will definitely disappear because they're using different potentials. But what happens if you actually use the same potential? Say the launcher and the rifle both use the high hit count potential. What happens is, say if you do get the shield and barrier up during the time where you're using your rifle, and then you switch to your launcher or vice versa, the potential actually does stay active. So you have all your damage bonus and Massive Hunter completely intact, even if you are switching weapons. Now this small note is actually really important to know because it will also be talked about during, well, our next weapons after these.
Yep.
But for now, let's talk a little more into the case of the rifle and the launcher. So one of my cases here is, for example, if you're playing on a mobbing quest or something like that, or a half mobbing quest, for example, the Crimson Castle Crusher, aka the Dragon EQ. There's a mobbing part in the beginning. So for example, if you've been using launcher the entire time and cluster bulleting a lot of things, you'd definitely get 50 hits off your cluster bullets or divine launchers and stuff like that easily. And when you reach the dragon phase, switch your rifle and you will have your shield right there. And with how rifle works, you can stay at a pretty long distance and definitely get at least one hit in every 40 seconds. So you would, at that point, remain permanently in your shield and damage plus. So I think it's an amazing choice to actually use with the rifle and the launcher. So speaking of ranged weapons, rapidly moving forwards, we also have Gunner that actually uses ranged weapons as well in the twin machine gun. And this one should be a rather easy choice for a lot of people, especially taking into account the level 85 skills of Gunner.
Yeah, Gunner has a lot of fast hitting moves. Not a lot, but with the another SOF from 85, we hit a lot of enemies. So you'd say 50 hit would be the best, but it actually, for me, I say 15 hit would be the best because, as we all know, Gunner has Perfect Keeper and then High Time Keep, which are things that require you not to get hit. So for the most part, you really don't need the Massive Hunter because you'll be iframing through everything anyway, so at least you should. Gunner's not meant to just stand still and take hits.
Right.
So yeah, so I'd say we better go for the 15 hit to get the damage up as fast as you can, and then pretty much go for it. The difference is if you're playing Goofy, it might be a bit harder because, as we know, Goofy doesn't have much healing on its own without an Atra, so you would be potentially dumping the S4. Where you're playing Goohoo, though, you have automates. If you do get hit, you'll be fine. But
for the most part.
But outside of that, yeah, it's riskier because you won't be getting your heals unless you put on an S2 Sturdy Recovery, which costs a lot nowadays because of this weapon. But yeah, it's a really good upgrade. It's a worthy upgrade from Atra. You just be careful what you're going into if you're going against Goofy, because you will lose the healing if you went with an S4 Atra.
There's also one more thing to note also. When you're fighting a boss in the very beginning, right? If you take the 15 hit potential, basically you will get that 15 hit and damage exactly when, you pull your chain off.
Pretty much. There's no way you cannot get your chain off without having the full percent power. Unless you have someone like pulling the chain for you and you just stand still doing nothing.
But in the most cases, you will definitely be able to get 15 hits within the time you're doing a chain.
Yeah.
So overall, I think Gessie's argument is actually really good. But it's something to note. It is definitely something to note and probably think about for a little bit.
Moving on, let's move on to one of RC's favorite classes. What do you think of Force and the Rod?
Oh my goodness! I cannot wait to use this rod for Phantom.
Oh boy.
Which is going to be the next class that is coming out next year. But for now, let's talk about Force, alright? So with Force, we have a lot of varieties of techniques in the game. And there is one big tech right now that does so much damage, and you can actually just work around it super fast, which is Ilgrance. Ilgrance is a light tech that does exactly 10 hits, and with that short charge photon flare, you can immediately pull out 50 hits in the span of like a really short time and really upkeep it, Especially to the fact that Force is a class where you're really squishy to begin with, having a 20% damage reduction is a godsend. It's really good. And of course, the case also applies with Talus because you can also use the exact same techs. And then if you have the same potential on both the Rod and Talus again, the potential will stick. So you can have a permanent barrier. I know I'm getting super excited over Force, but that's just a testament to how great this weapon is to begin with.
Yeah, I'd agree. What if you're playing Tekker? What do they have?
Now, Tekker is a little harder to say because the existence of Lavis Cannon. The thing is, like, Lavis Cannon does add a lot of DPS to your wand whacking in general because you have that extra hit. But here's the thing. With Zara, if you're playing more of a support type Tekker, say you're playing Tekker Hunter, and then you're supporting on a quest, for example, Underground Nightmare, which is Apprentice, you'd be holding out your wand, but what you'll be doing instead is using high crowd control techs such as Razandia, which is an incredibly high hit count. Which also means that you can get permanent Massive Hunter by basically having the 50 hit potential if you were to go for that option. I think it does bring up a pretty interesting case for that, but otherwise it's a little hard for me to say for Tekker just because Lavis Cannon's existence and how powerful that thing really is in terms of really going to the single targets and all that. Like in the mobbing situations, it's probably better to use Zara or not, because on the other hand, you can just use Lavis and just have that damage to really just kill all the enemies before they can even hit you. But that's just a really interesting thing to look about. If you plan to get Zara on Tekker, it's pretty good in terms of being just more defensive, and you can safely, Zondeal in the middle of enemies without getting knocked out and whatnot like that. But as a Tekker Hunter, you're already extremely tanky and have Massive Hunter on that. So maybe it's just that better to actually not get the Zara and work with Lavis Cannon's damage to begin with. So overall, I think it's really just a case between the Lavis Cannon and the Zara that really can just go either ways depending on the situation. So it might be good to have, or if you don't think it's necessary, then that's completely fine because you already have the Lavis Cannon that you can trade in with the Conqueror's Crest really easily. Or you might be playing class combinations such as, for example, Tekker Bouncer or so, which you're not even using wands or even thinking of using wands to begin with.
No, that's just a pretty interesting class that could go either way. Braver.
Braver definitely can go either ways.
I think Braver also falls under that.
I mean, okay. The first thing you need to look at is how many hit counts do you actually do on the Katana? Although this is me generally just assuming that most people who play Braver does play Katana Braver to begin with. There are many PAs on Braver. When I say many, I really mean Asagiri and Hato, where you actually get high hit counts. But your main damage does come from lower hit counts, such as just Sakura Endo.
That is true. The other thing I'm questioning, and I'm not sure about how many Braver PAs have, say, guard frames or items, just relatively like safe distance from getting knocked back in terms of Katana.
I don't believe any Katana PAs does have any guard frames or invincibility frames like fighter weapons does.
But they do hit pretty fast, don't they? Like they have fast animations, so
they do generally hit. They do have fast animations in general, yes. Like I believe, for example, you can probably make a case that you can probably do Hato's like 5-6 times to get that hit count up before switching to doing like Sakura's or something like that. But in that case, why not just, since Hato is 7 to 8 hits or so, if you hit everything, you can just do 2 Hatos and have the damage bonus right then and there.
It just depends on how the person plays then for stuff like that. Like their play style. If they're confident not getting hit and like just good at, say, countering and other things due to Katana's fast PAs, they could go for the 15 hit version. I guess those not so confident in their defense could go for the 50 hit version. Could that work out?
That's the thing. Also, though, you need to keep in mind that some people do play actual hybrid Braver.
Oh, true.
Whereas the bow itself does really not have too many hit counts in itself, unless you're really gonna sit there and spam Million Storm. But who does that, right?
I do.
Guessy?
Wow.
Guessy, we're not going there.
But it's Millions. It looks so cool. Love how it looks.
Yes, it does, but that is absolutely not something you will do for a boss, okay?
Okay. You're right there.
Yes. And then most of Bow Braver's damage nowadays actually does come from, Sharp Bomber, which is basically a single hit.
Ah, that is very true.
Although that is mostly for if you're playing, purely bow. But if you're doing a katana and bow, again, talking about the weapon switching, I think if you can really just bring your hit count up with the katana first and then switch to the bow, it might be okay. But here's the thing. If you're spec'd into a bow build, you're probably not going to have katana damage.
Ah.
Which might result in a big DPS loss to begin with.
Oh, that is. It's a lot of factors you got to put in there.
Definitely. And also, regardless of that, you still have to have a Kazami to be able to charge and release your gear before a quest. So that's just another thing that you also have to keep in mind playing with the katana. So honestly, I think personally my verdict, get the 15 hit. Just so you can have a more versatile switch between the katana and the bow. As well as consistently just, getting all those fast hits in and getting your 15 hits to activate your full damage and barrier. Without having to rely on using Hatos on, for example, some awkward situations or something like that, which is not really optimal.
Yeah. I'd say 15 hit would be the one I'd go for as well.
But if you want to go for the 50 hit, that's up to you. It depends on your playstyle. I'm not really one to say here. But speaking of hit count, there is one weapon in particular in the next class that there is no doubt at all.
Oh?
Dual blades and hit count are synonymous.
Ah, that is true.
There is no doubt in my mind that with dual blades, you should absolutely go for 50 hits.
It's true. I mean, you have photon blades and Kestrel Rampage.
Yeah, there's just so many tools.
So much.
And then for Bouncer, this Norm is playing Hybrid Bouncer anyways. So, even if you don't get as high hit count as fast on Jet Boots, Dual Blades does the job for you, and then you switch your weapon.
Ah.
I think that's a pretty good argument to end it there.
I'd say so.
There's not really any big argument over there, I think. And even then, like on mobbing quests, you can get a really big amount of hit count off by doing Moment Gales with Jet Boots. Or even if you're doing normal bossing, using Strike Gust actually gives you a really fast hit count in general.
Actually, Xander's wouldn't count towards hit count, would it?
That is actually something that I'm not sure about.
Huh.
Might be worth giving a go. But otherwise, I'd still say 50 hits is always a good guarantee, just because you can always start off with Double Saber. Well, not Double Saber, but Dual Blades. And get those 50 hit counts up. Sounds fair?
Sounds fair.
Sounds absolutely fair. All right. Now, here's the thing. The next class is quite strange when it comes to this weapon, actually, because it actually only has one potential, rather than the two potential that other weapons have.
Oh?
It's Summoner and Detect.
Ah, see, I would know nothing about that one.
Now, this one is actually pretty interesting because, believe it or not, it actually does give you a higher damage count than even Guren's would.
Wait, really?
Because here, I'm serious. Number one, it has a 3% damage at the base. And number two, you get another 3% damage when you have the barrier up. And all you have to do is actually get 10 hits with your pet. And now think about it. When you have pets such as like Melon, you can do PAs, for example, Melon Curse, which is the damage over time. It actually does get your hit count up really fast. Or Synchro, or any of those pets, with really generally high hit counts. It's really easy to get 10 hits.
Sounds quite useful in so many ways.
Yeah, and then, of course, when the barrier is up, you also get the damage reduction. Not only for yourself, but also your pet. So, win-win situation here, right?
Oh, that sounds really nice for a few pets.
And the interval here is 15 seconds, rather than the 8 seconds of the short potential for other weapons.
Huh.
So, it's actually pretty forgiving overall. Although, when you really think about it, it's actually really good for just about any pet. Maybe potentially except Synchro, because Rykros and Synchro is just a thing of its own.
Ah.
The advantage here truly is the no knockback, because, Alter Ego is not always on. So outside of Alter Ego, you would be vulnerable to knockback unless you get the Massive Hunter ring, which is not always up and not really worth either.
True.
So overall, I think it's really good to get. Like, if you're a summoner, go get the Zara.
True.
That's literally it. Get it! And of course, we can't finish this off without talking about our so beloved hero class.
Oh boy. I mean, I'm pretty sure hero should be pretty obvious too to everyone. I mean, you have the sword, which has stuff like vapor bullet, the weapon action. You have TMGs and normal shoot. Then there's the Talus. But I believe, and of course with hero boost and the damage that it needs to take to lose hero boost, I definitely would say that 50 hit potential is indeed the best for hero.
Because you do have a 20% damage reduction as well.
Exactly, that is the major thing, the 20% damage reduction. I mean, hero's sword PAs already have like either Gar frames or super armor to them, so the knockback, it helps. Knockback helps, but what you really want is that 20% damage reduction, because the more you keep hero boost, the more damage you do, and the more hero boost you have, pretty much the better your hero finish will be. So yeah, I'd say the 50 hit works. Also, as we mentioned before, because of the weapon switching potential and heroes constant level of weapon switching for many reasons, you would want to get all 3 Zara weapons all put in the same potential, and then you just like build up really fast with TMGs, and then just switch around if you want to. I'd say hero probably like Zara is probably one of the better things for a hero to get right now.
Definitely. Although you also have to keep in mind that you might also want to still have a Demonia as that quick battery charger.
True, in case you do lose that hero boost, you can always have...
But once you do have it, you can just switch your weapon and go to town.
Yep.
Although given that you do have to build up the barrier, but it shouldn't be the biggest problem.
No, especially with TMGs. Just hold that normal, or even if without TMGs. I mean, Sword can probably get it up there pretty fast, and while that you'll be doing better damage than TMG normal spam.
But yeah, overall, I think we got down to a really nice overall overview of all the weapons.
Yeah, I'd say so.
So yeah.
So which weapon do you think is the best for Zara? Like, what do you think the absolute most beneficial weapon from Zara is?
Yeah, who do you guys think the real winner of the Zara weapon is? Be sure to tell us in the comments or on Discord. Anything is completely fine. I'm totally not plugging the Discord, by the way.
Wow. Personally, I'm gonna be biased and say Double Saber got the best.
I mean, while I do agree with the Double Saber, personally for me, as a Force enthusiast, I think the Rod is one of the best things that could possibly ever happen. So yeah, speaking of which, I thought we were supposed to have one more person here. I thought we had this, Palico running around since the beginning. They've been gone for a while.
Oh, I guess I must have scared them off when I came in here.
Yeah, I mean, it's Guesty. Like, Guesty suddenly appeared. What's going on?
Oh, boy.
Anyways, oh dear. All we gotta say is, you've heard our opinions. We want to hear your opinions. So let's go into the XH free fields and farm all these weapons and see what it's all about.
Yeah.
Happy hunting, everyone.
Happy hunting. Be sure and hit that like button and subscribe. Don't forget to hit the notification for alerts when we put up a new video.
Guessy, I'm not a sellout.
I know.
That's amazing.